Just like last year, I'm previewing every single conference tournament in college basketball, and we're kicking things off with the ASUN. We got number 9, Kennesaw State, taking on number 10, Jacksonville. Kennesaw State won this tournament last year, but they've taken a step back since their coach left for South Florida. Still swept the season series in 2 close games. These teams are pretty different in terms of their tempo. Kennesaw State likes to run up the pace. Jacksonville likes to slow it down. Part of the reason for that, Jacksonville's offense isn't very good, so they don't want to get into a track meet with a much more efficient offense. Each team is respectable at forcing turnovers. Kennesaw State is better at taking care of the ball. One of Kennesaw State's big flaws is defending the 3, but Jacksonville doesn't shoot the 3 well enough to exploit that weakness. Jacksonville's big advantage in this game will probably be on the offensive glass, getting second chance points. So we'll see if they can maximize that. Ultimately, I'm going to take Kennesaw State. They do get to play this game at home because it's hosted at campus sites. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a year, but I think Kennesaw State gets the job. Next, we have number 7, Florida Gulf Coast against number 8, Queens. I think this has potential to be a really fun matchup. These teams split the season series. Another contrasting tempos type of game where Florida Gulf Coast likes to slow it down, Queens likes to speed it up. Florida Gulf Coast has a slight advantage in terms of three-point shooting, and I think the rebounding will really play a big factor in this game. Florida Gulf Coast is really good at defensive rebounding, and Queens isn't very good on the offensive glass. So second chance points will be pretty hard to come by for the Royals. I think home court will also be a pretty big factor in this, as Queens was atrocious on the road this year. 1 in 15 in road games. I also think Florida Gulf Coast is a little bit better than the 7 seed would indicate. I'm going to take them to win. Next up, we have number 1 seed Eastern Kentucky against number 9 Kennesaw State. I think it's just a bad matchup for Kennesaw State. Eastern Kentucky doesn't take a lot of threes, but when they do, they make them count, and Kennesaw State is not a very good three-point defense. I also think Eastern Kentucky has a pretty clear advantage in the front court. I think they feast on the offensive glass. These teams matched up once this year. Eastern Kentucky went to Kennesaw State, beat them by 10, and Eastern Kentucky hasn't lost a home conference game this year. So that's worth noting too. I'm going to take EKU to move on. Number 4, Austin Peay against number 5, North Florida. In the only meeting between these teams this season, Austin Peay got the win in overtime. I think this one has potential to be the best game of the whole ASUN tournament. 2 very balanced offensive attacks, at least 4 guys for each squad averaging 10 or more points per game. 2 very good three-point shooting teams as well. Ultimately, I'm going to roll with North Florida to get the win and get the revenge for that overtime loss. Something to know about North Florida, since January 1st, they attempt threes at the highest rate in the country and convert a good amount of them as well. And while Austin Peay shoots the 3 pretty well, they're not very good at defending the 3. I think the sheer volume that they're going to see against North Florida could be a problem for them. Number 2, Stetson against number 7, Florida Gulf Coast. I think this one's a lot closer than the seed lines indicate. These teams split the season series. Stetson won by 1 at home, got blown out by 24 on the road. They have a stud in Justin Blackmon, averaging 21 points per game, shooting 40% from 3, but their defense is a little shaky. And I think even though they're the 7 seed, Florida Gulf Coast might be the better team. I'm going to take them to get the upset. Last matchup of the first round, number 3 Lipscomb against number 6 North Alabama. These teams split the season series. Expect a lot of points in this game as these defenses are very bad. But Lipscomb's offense has a pretty clear edge to me. They're a very good three-point shooting team. And if it comes down to the wire, Lipscomb's very good at keeping opponents off of the free throw line, and North Alabama is not. So I will take Lipscomb to win. First semifinal, I have Eastern Kentucky taking on Florida Gulf Coast. Just like Florida Gulf Coast's last matchup, I think this one will be closer than the seed lines indicate, and I give them an outside chance to pull off the upset, even though it is on the road. Eastern Kentucky, really good on the offensive glass. Florida Gulf Coast, really good on the defensive glass. So in my mind, that kind of cancels out. The thing that worries me for FGCU is they allow opponents to shoot a very high volume of threes. Among the highest of any team in the country, in fact. And I don't know that that's a game they want to get into with Eastern Kentucky, considering over the last 2 months, the Colonels are shooting over 40% from 3. These teams met once this season. Eastern Kentucky won at home by 8 in a pretty high-scoring game. We'll see if the offenses would have the same type of juice the second time around, but I think the result would be similar. I'm going to take Eastern Kentucky to win. Second semifinal, number 3 Lipscomb versus number 5 North Florida. 2 good offenses who are efficient from really anywhere. Also 2 bad defenses, so expect a lot of points in this one. If it's a game of offense, I'm going to take Lipscomb. I think they're a little more dynamic. To me, North Florida is a little one-dimensional offensively. North Florida won the only meeting between the 2 this season. That was at North Florida. Lipscomb gets to host this one. I think they even the score, and I think they get the win. And for the ASUN Championship and the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, I have number 1 Eastern Kentucky taking on number 3 Lipscomb. These teams split the season series. They finished a game apart in the league standings. Eastern Kentucky has a clear advantage in the front court to me, while Lipscomb has a clear advantage in the back court. Their guy, Will Pruitt, has been on an absolute tear recently. At the end of the day, I think Lipscomb has the necessary offensive firepower to pull off the win in this game on the road at Eastern Kentucky. Give me Lipscomb to win the ASUN tournament. So those are my picks. I have Lipscomb defeating Eastern Kentucky for the championship. I'd say North Florida and Florida Gulf Coast are my sleepers because I think those teams could definitely make some noise in this tournament. Let me know what your picks are and make sure you're following for the rest of my conference tournament previews.